Hey everybody, a Texas Stroker here at Lance's Performance Shop, Lone Star Mopars.com. It's actually been a while since I've been able to be out here and record anything in part. Super busy at work, and it's also been really cold on the weekends, as it is now. And I'll tell you right now, if you hear the slight hum of something, I got a new space heater, and I'm really excited about it. It's nothing crazy. It's one of those like $80 ones that was on sale for half of the retail price. And it's an upgrade over my brown and gold one from the late 70s, I think, that would sometimes keep my ankles warm. So this will be our first video test with that thing. Also, apologies about this mess. I'm in the middle of a teardown. Last time I had free time. Basically, I really like these charge stands, and it's not functioning, and it's because the USB port is no longer soldered to the board. So we're going to have to fix that. Got a soldering iron warming up. And I thought, what better way to pass the time than to do the video I've been intending to do for like several weeks now, because I have a ton of drivers sitting right to the side of this table. And it's in part because I finally got this. So, timestamps and links will be down below. Again, I make nothing off that. I do it for your convenience. And if you think, oh geez dude, another screwdriver, well absolutely. And this one is not your stereotypical run-of-the-mill Milwaukee. No. This, if we can see it right here, is made in the USA. So kind of a big deal. A lot of this stuff, not only did they do screwdrivers, but I think also some pliers, sort of like a selection of tools. I guess they're probably gonna see how they fare. Most importantly, they're probably tracking the metrics of, are people willing to pay extra for the made in the USA, or do they just continue to buy our cheaper imported stuff? So I can tell you right now, if Milwaukee did not offer these standalone, which is a huge deal, I would not have this. I would not go shell out the money for a set. Which reminds me, I painstakingly made this long list over here. I should probably have that where I can read it. So I picked this up from Zorro, and you are 100% correct about what you just assumed. Oh, he didn't pay retail, and that's 100% correct. So this thing would cost roughly like $12.97. If you see this, you take the link, it's going to be somewhere around that $13 mark, right? What I did on these prices that you're going to see in this video, it was basically the first thing that came up. Some are harder to find than others, and we just literally went with what we have. So this though is where we're going to start, and I do have to say it's kind of a nice looking driver, to their credit. It's also kind of an interesting thing that I think they have done, which probably saves some money over doing, you know, like a different trajectory with it. But let's just kind of get into it with what Milwaukee thinks we should know. So this would be their part number MT202. I guess if you've got like a supplier, or you get online and you want to just specifically find this, not at Zorro, that's what you would need to go by. I will also tell you, if you just type in Milwaukee #2 Phillips screwdriver, you're going to get a litany of options, and the vast majority of them are going to be imports. It's very hard for a company when they have imported stuff and they start US made, or they had US made and jump overseas, to distinguish the product lines, especially in Milwaukee's case, where they're red and black and white, right? So red, primary color. Very difficult to discern that without radically changing things, right? So think of DeWalt. If DeWalt came out and they had a Made in America line and they went with red, it would be a bad move. Why? People are going to think that that's Milwaukee. Same thing, Milwaukee, if they go with yellow and you're in Home Depot, or, you know, cliche, stereotypical box store, or, you know, local power tool place, red is Milwaukee, yellow is DeWalt. It's kind of the standard, right? In the case of Milwaukee, you know, you can't really go orange because you've got rigid. It gets difficult, I'll give them that. So anyway, we're going to get going here, and they can say best fit, max grip. And then right here, they're advertising a precise fit to reduce stripping. And then they've got an anti-slip tip. That sort of goes hand in hand, in my opinion. But what do I know? I've just looked at hundreds of thousands of screwdrivers at this point in time. But, right there, long-lasting, high-strength steel. If we can find anything here, I don't believe there's anything on Anglais, so we'll skip it. Right here, though, on the packaging, and this is something that you're only going to get to appreciate when it's new, they've got USA across that little band. We'll have to cut that to get it out. The handle itself, you can see USA there, the Milwaukee, you do get a hanging hole. If you put this in a bag, a bucket, a pouch, what have you, you're going to have the number 2 Phillips indicator. Again, Phillips and number 2, so if the 2 wears off for the Phillips, you kind of have multiple avenues of possibly identifying your driver of choice. If we keep this angle, which is kind of odd, it's important that we do, because you're like, what in the world am I looking at, man? Like, it's almost like I'm looking down through a clear center section. Yeah, I kind of believe, and if we get this angle here for you, you, come on now, can kind of start to see like, hey, that's sort of translucent, right? And I want to say that what they seem to have done is take like an acetate core, wrap it around the handle, sort of, again, think of Klein or any stereotypical driver of that era, and then just done like a really fancy overmold. The thing that I hate about this packaging, aside from I'm afraid it'll be a pain to get into, I can't really get a feel for the actual driver handle, right? Like, you can kind of grab it, but when you can't get your finger around it, I don't really know what to expect. And I will also tell you, if this was hanging on a display at a local store, it feels very small, the way that you're able to grab it. Now, granted, a lot of people are just going to buy this blindly. Many people are going to get it in sets where you probably wouldn't even have an option to do either of those things. Maybe they have one. I haven't seen the retail packaging on that. But if we come down here, again, this is the big thing. This is made in the USA. They also give us that it's a number 2 Phillips and 4-inch. So if you did have a display somewhere and this was strung out and you're like, well, I've got to have at least a 5-inch shaft to get where I need to go, you'll know, hey, that one's too short. I need to jump over here to this 6-inch. So in terms of their other offerings, I haven't really spent a lot of time looking at that. I know that oddly enough, they seem to offer these as like a 6-piece set. They're sort of like one odd duck size thrown in there. And you're looking at about $55 there. And you think, okay, 6 pieces, if this was 13, we'll just run with 12. That's 72 to 78 bucks. That's a good savings for a set. That's true. We'll give them that. 4-piece, which I could also find. This is with me searching specifically for a 5-piece set, mind you. So they've got some work to do there on the SEO stuff. But 4 pieces would be $45, which that's coming in, again, just shy of $12 a driver, a little over 11, however you want to look at it. 5-piece with this, I could not find. Now, to put that in perspective, typically the first thing from Milwaukee that's coming up is Home Depot. You just do Milwaukee screwdriver set, you get this big, I think it was a 10-piece set for $20. So, is that where people are going to gravitate for the most part? Yes. If you go out to buy a friend, a kid, grandkid, grandparent, dad, whatever, husband, wife, who knows, if you go out there to buy a screwdriver set and you've got these, a 6-piece set sitting on the rack for $55, or you've got like a 10, 15, 18, 20-piece set for a third of the price, the vast majority of consumers are going to go that route. The big issue with the Milwaukee, if you had this side by side with an import, true story, oddly enough, I do not own a Milwaukee screwdriver outside of this one, so I can't showcase the import to you. But this is sort of the hill that they've got to climb and find either that professional audience, phase out. This is really the way you would do this, is you would phase out your imported line, and you would just get these going if you're able to then justify lowering the price because you're producing more, or you're like, hey, you know, this is kind of where we're at, regardless of the quantities we produce. We got to have our margins. It's a $12 driver on a good day. Let's find a way to put a cheaper handle, right? Again, you hate to see that type of a thing, but if it stays made in America, then you can distinguish them. This is sort of like your acetate hybrid, and then you've sort of got just like red soft finish or something that they could do cheaper, or maybe it's more expensive. But the way it stands, the average consumer is going to have a really hard time distinguishing them and then coming in and saying, yes, I will pay, 3 to 4 times as much for a set, or double. I mean, maybe it's like these are on sale. You can maybe get the set for $50, and then there's that 20-piece set that's, $25. The way it's going to work for virtually anyone Fewer pieces, more money. More pieces, less money. There's a chasm there, and the vast majority of people are going to fall to this side, right? So admirable to finally produce something here. Could have done it long ago, but in terms of getting this to take off, like if this fails, it will either be because the tool sucks, which I don't know anything about yet, or they couldn't distinguish it amongst their own product offerings. And I say that for the simple fact, unless they really want to commit to this, when they have that set that's half the price with a double or more of the pieces, people are going to go. Even if this was let's say they had the 5-piece set here for 50, okay, and they've got the, I don't know, I guess we'll say like a 7-piece set for 25. If that 7-piece set of imports includes the 2 little stubbies, the person going in there to buy this as a gift is going to say, oh, well, you know, this set doesn't have those little guys. I'm going this route, and it saves money. You know, it's very, very hard to get past that. And like I said, to really commit to it, you would phase that out and you would just offer this. That's great for Milwaukee. It clears up confusion for consumers. But then you've got your Milwaukee Made in the USA sets proudly displayed. There's nothing to confuse the consumer. And what do you have next door? You've got the imported DeWalt. You've got the Husky set that's got 40 pieces for, you know, a third of the price. And you just are going to have a really hard time. Now, a company like Milwaukee could probably pull that off because there's just so many people that I'm a Milwaukee fan. I will purchase everything. If Milwaukee puts their name on it, it's golden. It's going to be awesome. I got to have it. Look at YouTube, look at Instagram, social media, forum posts. Like, there are people who revolve their life around Milwaukee. I come in here, I probably look like a tool slut. We've got everything from all over the world, cheap, expensive, you name it. It is all here. There's not brand loyalty. Milwaukee people tend to be very, very fiercely loyal to the brand, right? You rarely have a concession that, oh, well, you know, I prefer this, but the DeWalt corded grinder lasts a little long. You don't see that. It's Milwaukee, Milwaukee, Milwaukee. They can capitalize on that, but that's a percentage of their sales. The rest is, again, going to be, oh, well, the Milwaukee, you know, was twice the price of this one, and this had more pieces. And people are going to just continue to fall down that line. So until you have, you know, that 40-piece screwdriver set and you break them all or they strip the threads, you know, people have a hard time shelling out more money. So you've either got to commit to it, or you've just got to keep it there as an offering for the professional user or people that just truly, truly care about country of origin. So it is what it is, right? I'm sure factory workers there, their, you know, immediate family is going to go out and they're going to buy this. Somebody beside them is buying the imports. They slap it out of their hand and say, no, you get your grandpa something better. Get him something made in America, you cheap, you know, wretch of a human. So that's the issue that they've got. If this was a startup, if they'd never had, you know, offered hand screwdrivers before, this wouldn't have that battle. But that's a huge battle. It's an internal issue. And like I said, the only way to really mitigate that is to chop off the head of one of the lines. So sadly, what most likely will happen is these won't sell well because of their own imported lines that are fractions of the price with double the set contents, right? And they'll say, well, we tried to manufacture in America, it just didn't work out. And these will go away, and they'll be left as collector's items, or some guy will go out on liquidation and buy them because he actually liked them and knew that they were better than the imports, so on and so forth. And you'll have another, you know, mega company say, well, we tried, it's just not practical. And we'll be back to square one, and people will say, man, I wish they'd make this stuff in America. But when you see it, when someone actually does it for us, you have to follow suit with actually purchasing the product. If you buy one of these, like I'm doing here, and I hate it, okay, bear in mind, I'm not someone that requested Made in the USA in Milwaukee. Wish they would have stayed here. But if you do that, you can't just be someone on the internet clamoring for it. You need to go out. It's kind of like Eagle Grip. They did everything right, but then people claim they didn't know it was there, right? They didn't know that it was an option, so on and so forth. So it's a slippery, slippery slope, and it's a big, big challenge for anyone to undertake. So hopefully it goes well. Again, I say this not as like huge Milwaukee fan. I'm also not someone that hates Milwaukee, okay? My personal experience, Milwaukee, I use corded. There ain't no place for batteries on an angle grinder in my world. Corded Milwaukee grinders, I typically get about 6 months out of. They have more issues than the DeWalt's, but they also have a good warranty. But on the flip side, I can't wait 2 weeks for it to come back to me to have the brushes replaced or the slide lock handle fixed, so on and so forth. So I've got a ton of them because I can't have downtime. The DeWalt's, typically, when I was actually running and gunning them, you would tend to get 3 to 4 months out of a DeWalt and 4 to 6 out of a Milwaukee. That's just my personal experience. That's industrial, heavy use, severe duty, not casual stuff, not weekend warrior, not me here at the house cutting out rusty floor pans or something. This is industrial stuff, okay? I have had DeWalt grinders last longer, but that's because they weren't necessarily used for the common tasks. They were sort of like specialty and thus did not see as much action. So take with that what you will, but again, hammer drills, I run Milwaukee at work. Again, corded, I've had those crap out way too fast for as daintily treated as they are. This last one I had, it's actually lasted longer, but the other one was very disappointing. But like I said, this comes from a guy that is not going to worship Milwaukee, but I also don't hate Milwaukee, right? So I like what they've done here, in terms of bringing this stuff back. Pliers, maybe we'll bring some in. If you want to see something in particular, let me know. They're up there in price, I'll say. This one, again, if I had to buy a set, would not happen. So again, huge thing for Milwaukee here. Maybe selling these individually and keeping the imports in that big 20-piece set is a viable strategy as well. That way, if someone comes in and it's like, well, Larry said he needed a number 2 Phillips, boom, there it is. And it's $12 and that massive set is $20. He didn't say he needed 19 other screwdrivers. He said he needed a number 2 Phillips. So anything that's deemed professional to me, whether it's stocked locally or is just available for order, you've got to have standalones. That's one of my biggest knocks with Icon. They call it professional, but if I went in there and wanted to buy a number 2 Phillips, which I do, I shouldn't have to be hamstrung by purchasing a set. I get it, you want to sell sets, but have the standalone option. Milwaukee has done that, so thumbs up on that front. Now, coming around to the back, we'll try to fly through this a little bit more. You got your cushion grip and anti-slip tip, and yes, I am excited about that. And also, what is something you should know about me? I love knurling, and they've got knurling on the shaft, and that's going to be nice. So, precision control knurl chink. It's always debatable, though. Do you want it up by the tip to really spin it? Do you want it farther back by the handle? Do you want it centrally located? Do you want ringed patches? It's personal preference stuff there. It is nice. It'd be interesting to know what their logic was on where they positioned it and why. But coming down again, I do think the other side has the white USA. Nope, I was wrong. So, right here, USA, and right here, USA. Would have been nice if this was actually highlighted. So, not sure what went on there. Could we fix that with a paint marker? Yes. Will it come off? Oh, it sure will. But would have been cool if the factory had done that. Anyway, anti-slip tip, they've got it laser etched. That is an interesting design. I'm kind of excited about that. I honestly don't have many Wera laser tips, as odd as that may seem as well. Long-lasting, high-strength boron-infused steel. Again, this is something that you've heard me stress time after time. When you go overseas, you think, how can they make that so much cheaper? Well, one side is the labor, of course. A lot of the rest is inferior materials, okay? And this is nothing against the host countries. They do what they're told and instructed to use, right? For the most part. But people don't take production. Say if these were always made in America and they say, well, we're getting killed by the imports, and they wanted to move to, China or Taiwan for the first time, you're not going there to produce a more expensive driver. People and companies are going there to produce something with a bigger profit margin. That profit margin is realized by cutting corners. I hate to say it, whether it's the cheaper labor or simply materials. There is a huge difference in materials. Go ahead, if you're a machinist, chime in here. You can pay for what's good, or you can get junk steel. And whenever you machine that, you're going to have issues. It's going to, like, let's say we're making a shaft, okay? You're going to pay for stress proof, or you're going to be like, nobody's going to know. And you're going to machine it. Yeah, it'll probably look fine. But then you get it out in service in the field, and guess what? Snaps in half. And that creates a lot of other problems and issues and a bad reputation, and it's not something that you want to deal with for the minimalistic savings, because in the end you don't save. But again, for giant corporations, you can just go crank this stuff out cheap and sell it to the sheeples, and hey, there you go. But right here, there's a QR code. It's a shame. I assume that's Zorro that put that there. I'm not sure what the text is, but again, I guess there is truly a lifetime guarantee. I'm not sure how that works. I haven't heard from anybody. I will say, I mean, yes, it does typically. When I send the grinders in, it's like a week to 2 weeks to get it back. It goes to the distributor. They confirm what I say. They check. The biggest issue with Milwaukee junk, I don't know what they're going to do here. I would assume this laser etched piece on the grinders, those stickers come off, and every time that stickers come off and we tape it, or we try to glue it, or we just send it with it, I get hassled, and that really pisses me off. And I'm an honest person, and I don't appreciate that. And I don't know what they're gonna do here. There's no like labeled sticker anywhere, so I'm sure this laser etching is gonna come off. No one's gonna fake a made in the USA screwdriver, folks. So if the shaft breaks off in the middle, just fix it and give them a new one. But I would assume, again, I'm thinking of this as going through a supplier, but I assume as an individual it would be roughly the same procedure, just minus the middleman. And I would probably think there should be fast turnaround on this, because you're not probably going to fix it. Maybe the handle and shaft are unjoined, and they come in and they take the same thing and glue it. I don't know what they're going to do, but it would be interesting to know on that front. So I do not know if this can be cut or not. We're about to find out. Golly. Yeah, I'm gonna take this apart off camera. I was trying to be brand themed here and go to town with that, but it ain't happening. So I'm gonna get this thing cut, opened up, see whatever I have to do to get one screwdriver out. Again, you probably sell these cheaper in bulk at a distributor, because you wouldn't have to do whatever is inside this cardboard, which is a very thick plastic tag. But I'll let you know how I open it, and then we'll take a look at the actual driver. And we're back. What magic tool did the trick? Little Stavilos. That's right. So apologies to Milwaukee. Like I said, I don't have their pliers, but this is what you're dealing with there. I would assume we could shave a few bucks if we could find a better, more efficient way to pack. So finally have the driver in my hand, and I gotta say, it actually feels better. Again, I wasn't expecting much, because it was very hard to get a good impression the way that's packed on that. So I get it, they've got to stop theft, which is another problem. You spend a lot of money on that junk, so not necessarily a Milwaukee issue. Right here though, this is sort of the beauty side. You've got the Phillips indicator here on the acetate handle. You can see the acetate a little bit better now without that black USA strip over it. You got white Milwaukee. Again, USA was kind of left in the dark there. Flip it around, we did not water fill the Milwaukee or the USA here. There is the hanging hole. Here's our Phillips 2 indicator. I gotta say, that's actually pretty easily visible, especially again if you weren't looking at it through a camera. There's a small part line we can see here, but again, I kind of feel like this is a acetate handle with this overmold. I think it's sort of like a chiseled contoured acetate, and then this is on there. I don't know the exact manufacturing process, but that is what I would deduce from handling it. I can't spin it super fast. It would have been nice if there was slightly more of a bottleneck here. Again, maybe if you had really small fingers you could. It's not terrible by any means, but it's just not perfect, and very few are. But it's just something I've got to denote here. I will also tell you something slowing the spin down is just the contours here of the handle. So you've sort of got this black area. I guess you could call it soft, especially compared to the harder red areas. But basically, every time there's a little groove, it's creating friction, which creates a better grip. So while this tactic right here, it's sort of cumbersome, in the end, it might actually be better overall, because you've got to think of you're wanting to not slip when you're actually trying to break something free or tighten something up, right? Maybe you got a screw that constantly backs out from vibrations on a saw case. You're not just going to run it down here like this and stop when you get resistance. Then you're going to bear down, and you're going to really torque on the handle. So Coming in, again, hanging hole all the way through. Could you use that to generate leverage? Yeah, you could. Should you? Probably not. It would be interesting to try. Again, I tell you, I know people love to see the carnage. They want to see these brand new tools destroyed. I don't generate revenue here. You know, like we don't even break even. If this channel ever gets big, you know, in addition to a twin turbo Viper, I'll break this stuff. I'll say, well, let's see how well she holds up, and I'll just take the brand new $12 screwdriver. We'll see, like, where does it split? Does the overmold fly off, or does the overmold stay intact and keep the acetate from splintering outward? I don't know. And, quite frankly, at this point, I know it's $12, but hey, you know, it's a functional tool right now for me, and I've got to factor that in. So it's really not terrible. Obviously, anyone that watches my channel, you know, I would prefer blue, I would prefer orange, I would prefer green, I would prefer almost anything over red. I will say I have considered, if I liked this, purchasing a set of these to just demo at work, basically, right? Throw them out there, do whatever you want to with them, and see how long they last, how well they hold up, particularly the tip, which we're going to go to now. I have to say, this was something I could see and experience way better on that packing card more than the handle. This actually looks to be well done. You'll note there's no laser etching on the fluting here, which you'd think would be kind of desirable. I guess it might be difficult. Again, you're talking to a man that doesn't own and doesn't use a laser, although that would be pretty cool. So, in terms of right here, it is pretty nice. Again, how long will that last? How well will it work when it's brand new? What is it like? You know, again, if this comes off in 2 weeks, or it's just worn down in 2 weeks, it's pointless. You know, it was great when it was new. Maybe you keep it for certain tasks and set it aside because it's delicate. I don't know. Some of you have probably used these for a few months now, if I had my guess. If so, leave a comment, let everyone know, hey, you know, that laser stuff is awesome. It's held up great. I'm using them daily. Or, hey, you know, I got that for the weekend shop stuff. So far, I've had them 3 months. They've been great. Or, of course, hey, I got those, pre-ordered, got them in, they suck. Just tell people, right? The veil of anonymity that the internet offers you will protect you from recourse. The knurling right here, I have to say, is disappointing. I love knurling, you should know that, but it's not aggressive. Like, it's almost just super smooth, not a smooth. You know what I mean? So we'll see how well the tip, if they said anything about the tip, it's covered by the sticker, which I did try to peel. I couldn't do it without tearing up the underside of the packaging. So I don't know if it's like vapor blasted, if it's heat, if it's anything special or differentiated from the rest of the material. I don't know. This isn't bad, it's just, again, it's not quite as aggressive as I'd want. You can get slightly better of a grip, but it's not much better than here, right? Kind of follows suit. It's sort of like barbells, you know, like some people want volcanoes and some people just want something that's not perfectly smooth. I would tend toward volcanoes, so that's sort of what I want with knurling everywhere. I'd almost consider that more of just a visual, but it is subtle, very subtle. So if you're expecting like, yeah, this is going to be great, no, but it is noticeable, so we'll give them that. So overall, I've got to say, at the $12 mark, not a terrible driver here in the bench impressions. Keep in mind, we cannot pass judgment on this tool until we have used it, and used it for a long time. I need to know when they fail. I need to know when that wears off. I need to know if this actually is way better. Especially, you know, I'm doing this right now with clean hands. Throw some aniseeds on my hand. You know, here lately it's been hydraulic fluid. You know, get some of that on me, and maybe I'm like, oh yeah, that is nice. You know, it's way better than it was in the bench test. I don't know. We've got to get seat time. So again, if you've got the experience, by all means, let folks know. Again, big kudos to Milwaukee for taking this on, doing the undertaking, making it happen here. I hope it's successful. I might not like this. I might have other drivers that are fractions of the price that I like way better. But I have to respect the efforts, and I would say that for anyone, right? So Harbor Freight wants to bring in Icon screwdrivers and start up their first ever actually Harbor Freight owned manufacturing facility here in California. Do it, and I will applaud you for that. The tool might suck, They might be terrible. They might take 2 years to work through the bugs. But at the end of the day, you have to give them credit for trying. Same thing here with Milwaukee. Even if you're a DeWalt person, even if you think Milwaukee and DeWalt both suck and you run something else, Makita, Bosch, high-end stuff, exotic Festool, Hitachi, whatever, or junk like me, from Harbor Freight's Hercules line, you have to give credit where credit is due, and you have to do that whether it's a company you like or a company you hate. You've got to be consistent, otherwise you become a hypocrite, and no one likes a hypocrite. So I wish, like all the time, I think, man, I wish I knew what these people were thinking. Why did they do this? Like, why did they pick this handle style over an acetate core? Was it nostalgia? Is it who they're targeting to compete with, or who they think they'll be placed by or have to vie with consumers for? Was it just the cheapest route to give it a go? Was this like, hey, this cost way more than something else we could have done, buddy. We wanted something robust that was going to last, and that's what this was. I don't know the answers, and it would be really cool. There's really no one that does that. Like, I guess probably a lot of the companies aren't going to tell you, most likely. But it's just like some random fandom out here. It would be cool to know this stuff. Like, why did you do that? Why was the knurling here and not down here? Why is it not closer to the shaft? Was this based on the most average hand? Did you take every employee in your factory and map out their hands and say, okay, Charlie G, you have the most average hands in the factory, get over here. We're going to base all of our ergonomics off of you because you are the most average. I don't know. Was this just, like 3 engineers threw some crud together in CAD and then they're like, yeah, that one looks better? I don't know. And it would be really cool to know that stuff, at least in my opinion. So what I've got to do now to wrap this up, not that we've not talked long enough about it, is go in and talk about the competitors. When I think of a made in the USA screwdriver that's actually affordable and readily available, I gotta go Klein. This is what I grew up with. This is what I cut my teeth with. This is very similar. Yes, it's not yellow acetate, okay? Which, to Milwaukee's credit, a lot of companies doing that might have done something Klein-esque so they can pull that market segment in. This is Klein. It's made in the USA. Roughly similar prices. I would say Klein's a little bit more economical, again, probably because they're established here. They've got it down. All day long, you can find a 5-piece set of Kleins. This is largely going to be 3-slotted, 2 Phillips. Anytime you hear me reference 5-piece set down below. $45. What is the Milwaukee? Again, 4 pieces is $45, 6 is $55. So we could just generously deduce a 5-piece, if I could find it, would be around $50. Keep in mind, all of this stuff is just standard MSRP, easy to locate and purchase retail stuff. So Klein is a little bit more economical. Individual screwdriver pricing, $12.97 for that. With no effort at all, you can get a Klein for $10. I know I can get them way less than that standalone, but the average person just quick clicks on the internet, it's $10. I will say, as much as I use Klein and have back records with Klein, if I had to knock Klein on anything, it would be the aesthetics. I have nostalgia here. I cannot lie. All right. Would I ever create that of my own accord? No. But I've used those for years. Again, sentimental, nostalgia, whatever you want to call it. But in terms of aesthetics, even though I don't like red, again, if I pick like, ooh, if Klein did, like a nice light blue here, and if Milwaukee had that in blue, just looking at these, and this is totally irrelevant, it's just personal preference, I might actually prefer the Milwaukee aesthetically. That said, nostalgia kicks in, and this is just classic. This is truly an American classic, in my opinion. Coming in, I don't actually have any of these, but also on the American front, you've got Channel Lock, Wright, and Mayhew. You're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Channel Lock drivers aren't made in the USA. Again, not all of them are, but some of them are. If you take Mayhew's hard handles, you've seen me bring the picks in, they take that same handle, which looks eerily, very, very close to this, and they make them for Wright, and they make them for Channel Lock. Channel Lock is in what? Classic Channel Lock blue. Wright is kind of a darker blue. Internet imaging generated sucks. I've been trying for months to actually get just a number 2 Phillips. Again, I can find sets. I don't want to buy a set. I want a standalone driver. Again, credit to Milwaukee there. But I plan to bring those in, but those are a little bit less, again, at $10. Now, granted, you're going to have a way easier time finding Klein or Milwaukee Made in the USA than I think you will Mayhew, Channel Lock, or Wright. Especially Wright. You're not going to find that stock. The people that sell Wright probably don't stock those because they would sell the Mayhew equivalent, essentially. They can probably order them for you, but in terms of you walking in and seeing the dark blue of Wright that they selected there, I don't know if it's going to happen, okay? So, Mayhew, Channel Lock, Wright, put those basically probably $8 to $10, I would say, individually. Again, set prices, maybe $35, $40, depending on what route you go, who the supplier is. Just ever so slightly cheaper than the Milwaukee. Since I have this in hand, this is actually a good segue here. You're like, Tekton? Oh, nope. Get that out of here, dude. We're talking about America. Well, Tekton is an American company. Like, I don't care if they're an American company. They get that junk out of Taiwan like their ratchets and socks. Yeah, they're okay, but they're not American. They actually make these in America. And they actually make them very, very economically in America. Not all of Tekton. In fact, I'd say a small percentage still is made in the USA. They're working to correct that and add as much as they can. Angled wrenches, laser cut in America, 100%. Same with these hard handle and their high torque handle, sort of like a very interesting tri-lobe design, both made in America. So you've got that going for you. If you're interested, these are $5 a piece. So you could literally buy both of these to see which handle you like better and have an extra $3 versus the Milwaukee. You can get both of these for roughly the price of the Klein or the Mayhew. So their sets at Tekton are kind of funky. A 4-piece set of the hard handle is 18, 6-piece set is 37, an 8-piece set of the high torque is 36. So yes, they are going to be significantly less than the Milwaukee. And again, these are made in America. Now, if we want to come into another American-made driver, we've got Mac, okay? This is the old school sort of Proto Duratec type of styling, right? And this, if we can get it to show up, is a USA, right? So the Stanley Black & Decker Mac tools made in America. These aren't terrible individually. They kind of ratchet up with sets, but 20 to 30, basically 24 right now on this one. So they're actually, in terms of like the tool truck high-end stuff, they're roughly double the price. Well, not quite of the Milwaukee, but very close to double the price. That would be a thing where, hey, you know, are you going to walk in and get this warranted and mail it off? Does your dealer take good care of you? Does he always have those on the truck? Does he never have your color and you have to wait 2 weeks? That's going to be a you decision, okay? Snap-on drivers, we won't showcase one here. Maybe we have them. Maybe we're sitting on a plethora of Snap-on tools just waiting to hit the 10,000 subscriber mark and have it all released. Or maybe we're not. I don't know. I guess we'll have to get to 10,000 to find out. But they're roughly, again, hard handle, think very similar here, and then their instinct handle, you're looking at around $30 a pop for the driver. So significantly more, over double the price, right? Their sets sometimes aren't terrible, 120 to 150, but when you consider that's a 5-piece set, again, that's roughly double the Milwaukee. So again, you do you. Best case there, you need to try all of the handles. Let your dealer put that in your hand and say, whoa, Milwaukee is fractions less and it's better in my opinion. So you think, hey, you got to talk about Matco. Well, here's the problem, okay? This is overpriced and imported, and this is a fantastic screwdriver. If you're curious why it's green and not their cool blue color, they didn't have that blue color when I purchased these for the Matco haul at 5,000 subscribers. But this is actually a Witte driver. It's made in Germany, and you can get those Witte drivers anywhere on the internet for way less money than you would pay for the Matco equivalent. Now, Matco, to their credit, does do some nice colors, some different things, but you're probably looking at, you know, like 20 to 30-ish for the Matco equivalents there. Even their import drivers kind of pricey, so it's just, that's your tool truck equivalent, right? Coming in, I do want to highlight this on the Mac front because I am not sure that those are going to stay made in the USA. This is a Proto driver we've showcased recently. If you look at it, it is made in France. I do love this is a softer material versus the Mac. I actually really do like this. But there is a chance that the country of origin has changed on the Mac. So beware of that. I don't know the particulars. It is what it is. Now, in terms of Milwaukee, this is sort of their like domestic competition. Tool trucks and American manufacturers that are still doing it right, still doing it in America. When you go overseas, now I'm not talking about this Matco thing from Taiwan or China overseas, okay? Well, you know, let's segue with this. This is a Carlyle, which is filthy. And you can walk into Napa, and I bring that up. Why? Because a lot of people use Napa for their parts. It's small town shops type of a thing. Maybe the Snap-on guy doesn't come but like once a month, or when orders or, you know, warranty stuff arises. Maybe you haven't had a Mac or Matco guy in years. People turn to Napa, okay? Tractors, the little stores, Harbor Freight's increasing their footprint in brick and mortar stores, and it works well for them because untapped potential, right? You got a one tool truck guy and he's unwilling to go over here because he's got his honey hole and he doesn't want to have to drive 60 miles to another one, even though it's his territory. You get into some weird intra-business politics, right? That's where something like this comes in. These things are like $4 all day, okay? 4 to 10, maybe $8, you know, then they have a slightly fancier handle that's around 10. You got to factor that in. If you're in a small town, you might have an Ace, you might have a Napa. You're probably more likely to have a Napa, an O'Reilly's, or an AutoZone nearby. A lot of you can't relate to this because you live in like the megalopolis on the east or the west coast, but get to the flyover states and you don't have a Home Depot nearby, right? Maybe Home Depot's in the big city. And where's the big city? Well, it could be 15 minutes away, or it could be an hour and a half away. Right? So that's how Ace and True Value exists and can sell stuff at exorbitantly high prices, because it's the convenience. You can get there in 10 minutes versus an hour and a half to get to Home Depot. So Napa sort of has that same thing. Carlyle, held in high regard by many. Depending on your handle configuration, $4 to $10. So, like I said, that's going to be in there in person. The Milwaukee may not be stocked. Maybe your local hardware store is going to have it. You can kind of compare. But again, you've got the 6-piece set for $55, and you've got $4 drivers here. Do the math. Which way are people going to go? Stuff like this. If you're in a big box store, let's say we're at Lowe's now, you got a Craftsman. Again, you can get this set dirt cheap compared to the Milwaukee, and doesn't it look eerily similar? Black, red, and white as an accent color. These actually aren't terrible in hand. We haven't done any testing with them, but they're dirt cheap, and that's something. Somebody looking at screwdrivers at the primary Milwaukee sales spots is probably going to have a Craftsman, a Carlyle, a Klein in the store as competition. And again, in the Craftsman case here, that's an import. Ratchet up the set contents, drastically cut the price. It's going to be hard for Milwaukee, just like it is Klein. Klein's been getting screwed by imports for years. Many of them even copy the Klein styling, maybe change the acetate to green or clear or red, but they come in and they take what's well known and respected in Klein and they slap it together overseas, bring it in, undercut them, and kill sales for Klein. It's really sad to see. Coming in, kind of sticking with, if you're wondering like, hey, why was that there? Why is this here? If it's a deal where somebody's after red, here's Teng. I just wanted to have it as an example. Not readily available. That would be an internet order. And to be honest, that's one of the tools where it's more near the USA made than you would think, right? Right here, this vessel. This is one of the early, this vessel, the blue Wihas, and the Mac is some of the first drivers I came in when I was mad at Klein because they had bad number 2 Phillips for a while. This, sort of think of as a premium Japanese brand. You can pick it up for, let me come over here and check, I think it was, depending on the site, like 8 to 13. Again, Megadora's usually a little closer to the 13, 15 mark. But a very, very nice driver for very friendly prices. Same thing over here. If we want to go to the Koken, you can get these cheap all day, every day. It's kind of crazy. Made in Japan. Go to town with it. We're not highlighting like cheap stuff, you know, other brands, you know, like Harbor Freight stuff coming out of China or Taiwan. I wanted to highlight this stuff in the sense of where's Milwaukee sold, what are your other options, and then since this Milwaukee Made in the USA is sort of aimed at a high-end professional user, that brings you in to the tool truck territory, to the electrical supply house. And what are they going to be littered with? Klein, right? Coming in, just since I know you're probably going to be curious about this stuff, this is not going to be a great example because it's not a number 2 Phillips, but this Felo, you would come in and you can get those. They're actually one of the more expensive drivers. People never seem to think that, but roughly the same $12, $13 mark. And then a 5-piece set, depending on the quality, you have different tiers, but this will all be made in Germany. 36 to 53. If we come in over here and grab a Wera, again, this isn't going to be the Phillips, but we're just going to run with it. Picture the green handle and the laser tip and everything. You would be looking at kind of around the $10 mark, probably to option it out close to the Milwaukee. And then a set of Veras is where you kind of get some good savings. 5-piece sets, again, depending on how you option them out, 25 to 55. Let's see here, Witte, which is, again, one of my personal favorites. It's going to be a Torx driver, but again, just run with me here for the comparison's sake. You're going to be able to get these really reasonably standalone. Something that Wiha and Witte have in common is standalone driver pricing is phenomenal. Number 2 Phillips, equivalent to that Milwaukee, how about $7, roughly half the price almost. Kind of crazy when you think about it. Subsequently, 5-piece set of really nice Witte drivers, 37. You're saving close to $20 there. Now, the elephant in the room, at least in my opinion, and I can probably find a number 2 Phillips here. Oh, that's a bolstered one. It's going to be right here from Wiha. This is a slightly older driver. But I say that because you may not realize this. If you're an electrician or if you pick up parts for your company or business and you're in and out of like Fastenal or something all the time, what do you usually see there, right? Or what I would see all the time, it was Klein and Wiha. And it's, you know, Knipex, yes, they're increasing their footprint, you know, and big box retailers and Home Depot and whatnot. Wiha amongst electrical supply houses always kind of been sort of a staple. And in terms of their standalone drivers, again, you can replicate this all day for around the $10 mark. Very close. If you wanted Milwaukee, I don't think the $2, $3 is going to deter you. You can spend a little bit of time and find these significantly less than $10 a driver. But the sets, okay, you can come in and like a 5-piece set of these is $33. That's almost half the price of the Milwaukee. It's also their color scheme, right, for the most part. I wish it has something different, you know, like I still wish we had the 3K blue handles, which is one of my first ever purchases back in the day about this whole screwdriver thing I'm going to do. But that's where they're going to kind of hit some unexpected competition. The electrical supply houses, right? Now, Milwaukee could come in, maybe they're like, hey, you know, we know you don't make much on these power tools, but we're going to give you a good margin on the hand tools. List price MSRP might be $55 for the 6-piece set. Maybe you walk into your electrical supply house, whatever local options you've got, and that same 6-piece set is $40 or $45. You're going to run into that again. Maybe your Mac guy is super cool. You know, you bought a ton of stuff, you boxed from him, everything went down in price. Once you committed to a box from the guy, you might be able to get that thing for around $15, $20. You know, maybe the set comes down significantly. This is all individual stuff that will be applicable to you and your local region. For everyone else, this is kind of what you're up against. Milwaukee, again, kind of a juggernaut, right? And, applause for A, manufacturing in America, and B, selling standalone tools. That's awesome. Like I said, I wanted to try one if I like this, but I don't want to commit to it. The same with the Icon. I don't have an Icon screwdriver because I don't want to buy the set. Okay, I want to get them standalone. These drivers here, whether they came standalone or I experienced them and brought them in standalone after getting a set, they all started with like a standalone purchase, right? So this actually seems promising. It's priced a little high, and again, I think they could either, I don't know what kind of margins they've built in. I think they could get that down if they increased production here. To increase production here, they need to see either demand from us, you know, the consumers, or just throw caution to the wind, start curtailing the imported screwdriver side a little bit so they can justify ramping up here, maybe lowering the cost per driver. It's going to be tough, and that's what's going to be interesting to see pan out. But like I said, ultimately I've got to use this thing. Missing features for sort of a high-end premium driver. There's no hex bolster. You'll note on a lot of the tool truck ones we had the hex bolsters. Obviously Wiha, Wera, you can equip that, and again the price doesn't ratchet up crazy, so you got to factor that in. Man, it's going to be interesting. So main thing, I just got to use it. Would I prefer a different color? Yes, but that's true with virtually everything you see here, minus that, because it looks awesome. But that's irrelevant. It's personal preference. I do think this also had anti-roll. I didn't test it out or anything. I don't think it was even advertised there, but the little notches on that end cap are there. Biggest critique right now, I wish it had slightly more real estate here, just slightly more. Case in point, if you look at the Witts or the Wihas over here, that makes a big difference for yours truly. Same thing with the Wera. It's just personal preference. Even the Mac and the Proto kind of have that going for them. But that's the Milwaukee driver. Way more information than most people probably care to know. But that's why you're on my channel. We do things differently. And these are the thoughts that go through my head as I sit here and buy a $12 screwdriver. And I know many of you are the same way, and that's how you wound up here and stuck around. So kudos to you again for sticking around, enjoying the video. Hopefully maybe you learned something, maybe you've got some thoughts. Again, leave those in the comments section. The end goal is simply to help people out. So biggest thing right now that could help me and you out is for the people, the early adopters, whether you pre-ordered these or walked in right after their release and grabbed a set on promo or something. If you've got the Made in the USA Milwaukees, how long have you had them? What's your frequency of use? And most importantly, how are they holding up? That is the big thing, which I cannot answer here in a bench impression. I do think they're decent enough. I could bring a set in and just throw them out in the shop and see what the guys do to them. You know, they'll probably get lost and abused and broken, but hey, we can test the warranty process, I suppose. So might actually check in with my supplier Monday and say, hey, what's your price? I'll give him a 5-piece set that I don't know exists and see what he comes back with. But maybe we'll go that route, kind of get it tested on that front. But yeah, that is about all I've got for you here. Again, it'll be interesting to see if Milwaukee expands on this. Hopefully it's successful and can stick around. I'd like to see hex bolsters. I'd like to see striking caps. All made in America. I don't want them imported ones sat in beside these if these take off. You got to do it right. You commit and I hold you accountable. Like I said, I think there's more to like than dislike. The $12.97 mark, it's a little high, but you know, it's not to the point that like Snap-on's $30 a driver. I'm fine if you just chop it off, don't give it the time of day, eliminate it from your options. At $12.97, yes, the Tektons you can get for like dirt cheap comparatively, but you're talking about like 5 versus 13. You could wing it, especially if you're a Milwaukee fan type of a deal. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this pans out for them. I hope it's successful. I hope they can expand. I hope they can bring other things back, you know, based on this, or start not just putting stickers on them or assembling them in America, but like manufacturing here. That's a big thing to me. I could care less if it's assembled here. You know, that the important stuff, the motor, the internals, the electronics, that wasn't done here. And it doesn't matter who assembles it at that point. You're just buying for stickers and advertising and deceiving consumers at that point. So, as best I know, this was a big undertaking. It's going to be exciting to see how they pan out. And like I said, not a terrible little driver here initially on the bench. But yeah, red and black, Milwaukee fans rejoice. You've got another option. For everybody else, can this come in cheaper? Maybe your local supply house, it's been Klein people. Maybe Milwaukee makes a push, sends some reps out and says, hey, what are you doing with Klein? You know, we're going to beat it. Tell me what we need to be at, and we're going to make it happen. I don't know how that's going to pan out, but it will be part of the equation, and we'll see how bad they want it. I will say, in terms of like an American staple, it's Klein. You might hate the looks of it. You might have had bad experiences with the #2 Phillips like me, which led to this whole You would not believe what that led to, really, but it's just an American classic. I think they've straightened everything back out. It's, again, what I grew up with. The reason you don't see me bringing in more Klein stuff, that's what we have at work, the nut driver, everything. And so I want to differentiate my stuff and do things and experience different tools. So that's what I do. But yeah, I think that's it's probably covers everything, right? Hopefully. So LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all three at Lone Star Mopars. Again, the packaging, maybe they could cut that down for distributors. I'm talking like an industrial back room, here's your screwdriver type of a thing. This is strictly done for retail setups, and I gotta imagine, you know, that's not cheap to do. If you've ever printed cardboard, you can relate to that. So very nicely done, but it's a shame that's done primarily so people don't walk out the door with their screwdriver. So anyway, that is that. My apologies, this little phone charger has been in the frame this whole time, but like I said, I was in the middle of it, and you know, that soldering iron's probably nice and hot now, so might have even shut itself off. Better go check that. Forgot all about it. Space heater's working good. My feet, ironically, are cold. I shouldn't have bagged on my brown and gold 1970s Wonder Machine down there. But yeah, you know the drill. If you got anything to add, make sure you do so. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like. If you like what we're doing here, I encourage you to subscribe. Again, 7,500 subscriber max stuff has kind of been a train wreck. I've got stuff recorded and uploaded, but the one that should have come first I don't have, and it's a mess. And then, like I said, at 10,000 we'll do Snap-on, and who knows, maybe we've already done that and uploaded it, and we're just patiently waiting on people to discover the channel. So on that front, again, ring the bell, get your notifications. YouTube just might tell you we got new videos every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. If you jump your charger across the creek, surf the internet, and find a 5-piece set of Milwaukee Made in the USA screwdrivers, not on sale, but with a free Made in the USA plier for you to try out from your selection of linesmans and side cutters, YouTube just might notify you. We got new videos every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. Until then, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you're having yourself a fantastic week. Most importantly, I hope I catch you back here for more action from the shop.